The mansion of Chief Adewale Johnson glistened in the late afternoon sun. Marble floors reflected the golden light streaming through tall French windows. Every corner spoke of wealth, imported chandeliers, Italian leather couches, and a driveway lined with luxury cars. But beneath all that shine, a storm of pride and cruelty lived inside. Chioma Okafor, just 19, stood at the gates with a small nylon bag. Her simple Ankara dress clung to her thin frame, and her sandals were worn out from the dusty road. She had been sent from her village by her widowed mother to find work in the city and send money back home. "Name," barked the guard. "Chioma?" "Chioma Okafor," she whispered, clutching the bag as though it carried gold instead of just 2 blouses, a wrapper, and a Bible. The guard gave her a long look before calling out to the head housekeeper, Mama Risi, a stout woman with a no-nonsense face. Mama Risi sized Chioma up and muttered, "Another one. Let's hope you last longer than the last girl." Chioma was led through the massive gates. Her eyes widened. Rose gardens stretched out like something from a fairy tale. But before she could admire them, a sleek black Mercedes glided up the driveway. The door swung open, and out stepped Vanessa Johnson. Tall, flawless, and wrapped in designer clothes, Vanessa was the picture of a Lagos princess. Her skin glowed, her hair framed her face like a crown, and her expression screamed entitlement. She looked Chioma over with disdain. "Who's this?" Vanessa asked, wrinkling her nose. "The new maid," Mama Risi replied quickly. Vanessa's lips curled into a smirk. "Another bush girl from the village? Father must think this is a charity home. Fine. Let's see if she knows how to scrub floors better than the last one." Chioma lowered her gaze, her heart racing. "Keep quiet, endure, survive," she told herself. That night, as she lay on a thin mattress in the servant quarters, she prayed, "Lord, give me strength. Let me endure this house. Let me not shame my family." She didn't know the storm about to test her faith. The next morning, Chioma carried a tray of tea into the dining hall. Chief Adewale sat at the head of the long mahogany table, reading a newspaper. Vanessa strolled in late, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "Good morning, Daddy," Vanessa said, kissing her father's cheek before eyeing Chioma. "Don't spill it on the rug. That rug costs more than her entire village." Chief Adewale chuckled softly. "Vanessa, be kind. She just arrived." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Kindness is for equals, Daddy, not maids." Chioma set the tray down carefully, but her hands shook under Vanessa's piercing stare. A small spoon clattered against the saucer. The sound was harmless, but Vanessa pounced. "Can't you do anything right?" she snapped. "Look at her trembling like a leaf. If she breaks anything, Daddy, you'll deduct it from her miserable wages." Chioma whispered, "I'm sorry, Ma." Vanessa leaned back in her chair, enjoying the moment. "Sorry doesn't fix stupidity." Chief Adewale sighed, folding his newspaper. "Enough, Vanessa. Let the girl be." But Vanessa only smirked, her eyes burning with quiet hatred. In her mind, the new maid wasn't just a servant. She was an eyesore, someone to crush for amusement. Later that day, in front of visiting friends, Vanessa deliberately sent Chioma on humiliating errands. "Bring me cold water." "No, not that glass, this one." "Do you even know what crystal looks like?" Her friends giggled, encouraging her cruelty. Chioma, red-faced, obeyed. But inside, a spark was lit. Pain, yes, but also quiet strength. That night, Vanessa whispered to one of her friends, "I'll make sure she regrets ever stepping foot in this mansion." Days turned into weeks. Chioma, though quiet, worked tirelessly. She polished marble floors until they gleamed, arranged flowers in vases, and served meals without complaint. Chief Adewale began to notice. One evening, after a long day at work, he returned home to find the mansion unusually calm. Chioma had tidied the library, arranged his papers neatly, and even brewed his favorite ginger tea, without being asked. "Who prepared this?" he asked. "Chioma, sir," Mama Risi answered. Chief Adewale smiled faintly. At least one person in this house knows how to serve without drama. Vanessa overheard. Her chest burned. How dare he praise her? Later that night, she stormed into her bedroom and slammed the door. Her reflection in the mirror showed fury. "He's my father," she muttered. "And he dares to admire a lowly maid? I'll remind her of her place." The next morning, Vanessa staged her cruelty. She ordered Chioma to carry a pile of designer shoes up 3 flights of stairs. Halfway, one box slipped, tumbling down. Vanessa appeared instantly, eyes blazing. "Stupid girl. Those are imported. Do you know how much they cost?" "I'm sorry, Ma," Chioma pleaded, trying to pick them up. Vanessa smacked the box out of her hands again. "You're useless. Do you think being pitted by my father makes you special? You'll always be nothing." Chioma's eyes welled up, but she refused to let the tears fall in front of her. She bent quietly and continued picking up the shoes. Vanessa sneered. "Cry, cry. That's all you poor people know how to do." But deep inside, Vanessa's jealousy had ignited into hatred, a fire that would soon turn into something far darker. It was on a Sunday morning when the cruelty reached its peak. Chief Adewale had gone out, and the mansion buzzed with quiet chores. Chioma entered the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast. Vanessa walked in, her silk robe flowing behind her. She stood silently, watching Chioma stir a pot of boiling water. An idea, wicked, cruel, sparked in her mind. She whispered under her breath, "Let's see how strong she really is." "Chioma," Vanessa called sweetly, "bring me that pot. I want to make tea myself." Chioma, unsuspecting, lifted the steaming pot carefully with both hands. As she turned, Vanessa suddenly shoved her arm. The boiling water splashed across Chioma's face and shoulder. Chioma screamed, a raw, piercing cry that echoed through the halls. She dropped the pot, clattering against the floor, spilling water everywhere. Vanessa stepped back, feigning shock. "Oh my God. She's so clumsy. She did it to herself." Servants rushed in. Mama Reese gasped, covering her mouth. "Jesus." Her face, one maid cried. Chioma writhed in pain, clutching her burning skin. Blisters already began to rise. Vanessa crossed her arms, pretending to panic. "Quick, take her to the clinic before she bleeds all over the tiles." But her eyes glimmered with satisfaction. As Chioma was carried out, she caught Vanessa's smirk through her tears. In that moment, she knew it hadn't been an accident. The boiling water wasn't just heat on her skin. It was a scar of hatred etched into her life forever. The household buzzed with whispers. Everyone knew what had happened, but no one dared speak the truth. Servants huddled in corners, voices low. "It wasn't an accident," one whispered. "Of course not," another replied. "But will you say it out loud? Who will believe a servant over the chief's daughter?" Chioma lay in a clinic bed, her face wrapped in white bandages. Every breath was agony. Every attempt to sip water brought tears. She drifted between fever and fainting spells. Mama Reese visited her once, holding her hand. "My child, forgive me. I saw, but I can't speak. Vanessa will ruin me. You must endure." Chioma's voice cracked. Why is she doing this to me?" "Because you remind her of everything she isn't," Mama Reese whispered. Back at the mansion, Vanessa strutted around as though nothing had happened. She told guests the new maid was careless. Such a pity, but that's what happens when you hire from the village. Chief Adewale asked once, "Where's Chioma?" Vanessa replied smoothly. She poured hot water on herself. "She was careless, Daddy. Don't worry, I sent her away. We don't need trouble in this house." Chief Adewale sighed, too weary to question further. And so, Chioma, scarred, broken, and abandoned, was quietly cast out. But the world would one day remember her scream. And Vanessa would one day remember the look in Chioma's eyes that morning. The look that said, "This pain will not be the end of me." The morning after the attack, the mansion gates opened quietly. A taxi stopped at the curb. Inside sat Chioma, her face bandaged, her few belongings stuffed into the same nylon bag she had carried from the village. Vanessa stood by the doorway, arms crossed, a smile of triumph hidden beneath a mask of feigned concern. "Father doesn't need scandals," she told the servants who had gathered. "Send her away. She's too clumsy, too careless. If the press hears about this, it'll ruin us." Chioma stumbled out of the car, clutching her bag to her chest. Her legs trembled, and her body burned with every step. She looked back once, hoping for a glimpse of Chief Adewale. But the curtains on his window remained drawn. No one came to stop her. "Go back to your village," Vanessa said coldly from the gate. "That's where you belong." The driver muttered, "Madam, where are we going?" Chioma whispered, "Drop me anywhere. I'll find my way." Hours later, the taxi stopped by a busy roadside near a rundown market. Chioma's money was gone, swallowed by the fare. She stepped out, bandages soaking with sweat, and collapsed against a tree. As Lagos life bustled around her, cars honking, traders shouting, music blaring, Chioma sat unnoticed, like a discarded shadow. Her last thought before fainting was, "So this is how it ends? Alone, broken, forgotten?" "Somebody help," a voice cried. A crowd gathered around Chioma's unconscious body. Some shook their heads, muttering about misfortune. Others walked away, uninterested. But one man pushed through the crowd, a tall figure in a crisp white shirt and navy trousers. His face carried authority, and his eyes held compassion. Dr. Nathaniel Okeke knelt beside her. "Give her air," he ordered firmly. He checked her pulse, then turned to the crowd. "Who knows this girl?" Silence. No one spoke. "Bring my car," he told his driver. Within minutes, Chioma was lifted into a black SUV. Nathaniel sat beside her, gently supporting her head. He studied the bandages on her face, his jaw tightening. "This wasn't an accident," he muttered under his breath. At St. Luke's private hospital, nurses rushed her into the emergency ward. For hours, Nathaniel supervised every procedure: pain relievers, antibiotics, ointments. When Chioma finally stirred, she found herself in a hospital bed, the beeping of machines around her. Nathaniel stood at her side. "You're safe now," he said softly. Tears welled in Chioma's eyes. Why are you helping me?" "Because no one deserves to be thrown away like trash," Nathaniel replied. "Tell me, child, who did this to you?" Chioma hesitated. Memories of Vanessa's smirk flashed in her mind. But fear sealed her lips. "It was an accident," she whispered. Nathaniel studied her carefully. He could see the lie, but he didn't press. Instead, he said, "Rest. When you're strong enough, we'll talk about what comes next." For the first time since the attack, Chioma felt something stir in her chest. Hope. Weeks passed. Chioma's face remained bandaged as surgeons worked to repair the damage. Skin grafts, careful stitching, ointments, all provided by Nathaniel's wallet and will. Every day he visited her. He brought books, fruits, sometimes flowers. "You read?" he asked one afternoon, holding out a novel. Chioma smiled faintly. "In school, before my mother couldn't pay fees anymore." "What did you enjoy reading?" "Stories about people who rose from nothing," she whispered. Nathaniel chuckled. "Then you'll like this one. It's about a girl who lost everything but became a queen." Slowly, Chioma healed, not just physically but inside. Her laughter returned in small doses. She began helping nurses fold sheets, sweeping the ward, even singing softly as she worked. "You're recovering faster than expected," one nurse told her. Nathaniel noticed too. "You have a strong spirit," he said. "Most people would have given up." Chioma looked down. "I almost did. But maybe God isn't finished with me yet." One evening, Nathaniel asked her to sit with him in the hospital garden. "Chioma, I want you to dream again. Tell me, if you could have one thing in this life, what would it be?" Chioma thought for a moment. "To study. To become someone. Not just a maid people throw away." Nathaniel smiled. "Then study you shall." That night, he made a call to an old friend at a foundation that sponsored young scholars abroad. Months later, Chioma walked into Nathaniel's office. Her scars had faded to faint lines, her face nearly restored. She wore a simple but elegant dress Nathaniel's sister had bought for her. "Doctor," she began nervously. Nathaniel handed her a white envelope. "Open it." Chioma's fingers trembled as she tore it open. Inside was a letter embossed with a crest. Her eyes widened. King's College, London. Scholarship awarded. She looked up, tears spilling. "Doctor, is this real?" Nathaniel nodded, smiling. "It's real. You'll have a full scholarship to study. You'll start a new life, far from the pain of the past." Chioma dropped to her knees, weeping. "I don't deserve this." "Yes, you do," Nathaniel said, lifting her to her feet. "The world tried to break you, but I refuse to let it win. Go. Make something of yourself. And when you do, promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Never forget where you came from." At the airport weeks later, Chioma hugged him tightly. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Nathaniel patted her shoulder. "Go, my child. The world is waiting." As the plane lifted into the sky, Chioma pressed her forehead against the window, whispering, "This is not the end. It's the beginning." London. Cold winds brushed against Chioma's face as she stepped out of Heathrow Airport. Skyscrapers loomed, and people of every race hurried by. She pulled her coat tighter, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. Life abroad was hard at first. She struggled with accents, cold weather, and endless assignments. Some students mocked her for her quietness, her background, even her scars. But Chioma remembered Nathaniel's words, "Never forget where you came from." She studied late into the night, her desk piled with books. She volunteered at student forums, spoke at cultural events, and slowly found her voice. Years passed. The shy maid transformed into a confident young woman with eloquence and grace. She learned finance, leadership, and business strategy. Professors praised her brilliance. By her final year, Chioma had become president of the African Students' Society. She wore tailored suits, spoke with confidence, and carried herself like royalty. At a dinner hosted by global investors, one mentor whispered, "That girl, she has the presence of a leader." Chioma smiled faintly. Inside, she remembered Vanessa's mocking voice, the scalding water, the humiliation. But those memories no longer broke her. They fueled her. Standing before an audience one evening, she said, "Some of us are born into palaces. Some are thrown out like trash. But the difference is not where we start. It is where we rise." The room erupted in applause. And just like that, the girl once scarred by cruelty began her journey toward becoming the woman who would return to shake an empire. The Adewale mansion looked the same from the outside, fountains humming, gardeners trimming hedges into perfect cones, but inside, panic lived in the walls. In the study, unpaid invoices sat like vultures on the mahogany desk. Vanessa Johnson, draped in silk and pride, pretended not to see them. "Transfer 10 million to Lush Galleria," she told the family accountant on the phone. "And schedule the yacht for Friday. We're hosting." "Madam," the accountant said carefully, "there is a cash flow constraint. Pending obligations from the port expansion." "Then liquidate something," she snapped. "Do I look like I run out of money?" He took a breath. "If we liquidate the wrong asset, loan covenants could handle it." She ended the call and poured champagne she didn't need. In the mirror, she still looked unstoppable. Lashes long, lips perfect, a goddess of Lagos nightlife. But the truth leaked through the edges. Vendors whispering, partners stalling, a freight forwarder threatening to pull out. At dinner, Chief Adewale tried to broach it gently. "Vanessa, we must slow down. The expansion is over budget. There's been a delay with customs." "Daddy," she said sweetly, "trust me. I know what I'm doing. Lagos is watching us. Do you want them to think we're failing?" He rubbed his temples. "I want us to be solvent." "Relax," she smiled, tapping his hand. "I've got a meeting tomorrow with an investor. We'll fix everything." The meeting the next day was at a penthouse overlooking the lagoon. The investor, slick and smiling, extended a term sheet. "This is bridge financing," he said. "We wire funds immediately. Vanessa skimmed the fine print without reading. Approved. Collateral, he asked. She shrugged. The Marina Tower shares. Temporary. Will redeem. By evening, gossip blogs posted her photo with a caption, Princess of the Port seals 8-figure deal. The likes poured in. The money did too. She exhaled. But the bridge came with teeth. Rates that bit. Covenants that choked. Her phone began to ring with words she hated. Margin call. Default risk. Collateral sweep. She threw the phone on the bed and said to her reflection, You're Vanessa Johnson. You don't lose. Outside the bedroom door, 2 housemaids paused with trays, trading a look of quiet dread. The house was moving toward a cliff, and no one could pull the brakes. The call came on a humid Thursday. Chief Adewale was at the port, walking the jetties with a clipboard like he had for 30 years, when his hand began to tremble. The horizon tilted. A searing pain shot behind his eye and ran down his arm. He tried to say, water, but the word tumbled out tangled. Sir, a dock manager shouted, rushing forward. They got him to the hospital fast. Machines blinked, the ECG scratched its lines. Vanessa arrived in sunglasses, breathless. What happened? The doctor's voice was measured. A cerebrovascular accident. A stroke. We've stabilized him, but there's weakness on the left side and some speech involvement. We'll know more after the MRI. In the private room, Chief Adewale tried to speak. Vane, he squeezed her fingers with uneven strength. Vanessa's world shrank to the rhythmic beep. She stared at his gray hairs, at the man who had always been made of stone. She whispered, Daddy, I've got it. I'll fix everything. But outside the room, reality waited with a stack of documents. The accountant met her in the corridor. The investor exercised a sweep. The Marina Tower shares are encumbered. We need cash within 7 days, or we lose control. 7 days. She laughed once, too loud. You're joking. There's more, he added lower. A whistleblower filed a complaint about misallocated project funds. Vanessa went cold. Which funds? The port expansion. Approvals were rushed. She shoved the file back. Find a lawyer. We have one. He says we need liquidity now. Vanessa walked out into the hospital garden, where families huddled on benches, praying. She made another call, to the slick investor. I need an extension. He smiled through the phone. I need collateral. You have it. I need more. Her jaw tightened. You'll get the rest when the sale closes. Tick-tock, princess. She ended the call, chest rising and falling like a trapped thing. For the first time, fear edged out pride. Back upstairs, she found her father awake, eyes following the 4 drip. Daddy, why, she said, forcing cheer. Rest. I'm handling the company. He blinked once slow. His right hand squeezed hers again, and she felt it. The weight of his life, his empire, his hope. It landed squarely on a daughter who had never learned to carry anything heavy. That night, the house went dark in half the wings. An unpaid diesel supplier had cut deliveries. The generators coughed. In the faint emergency light, a junior maid crossed herself and whispered, God, have mercy on this house. The ballroom at the Continental Hotel glittered like an evening river. Lagos money had gathered. Oil, ports, fintech, fashion. A banner read, Africa Growth Summit. Cameras flashed, speeches droned, flutes chimed. Vanessa arrived late in white silk, pain hidden under perfume. She was here to hunt a savior, a new investor, any investor. Then the MC announced the keynote. Please welcome the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Aegis Capital London, Ms. Chioma Okafor. The name cracked through Vanessa's posture. She turned, expecting a ghost from a memory of bandages and cries. The woman who walked onto the stage was something else entirely. Chioma glided in a tailored navy suit, hair swept back, scars softened to almost nothing. Confidence sat on her shoulders like a shawl. The room straightened. Good evening, Chioma began, voice low and controlled. We invest in leadership that creates value financially, yes, but also morally. She spoke without notes, painting a picture of ports reformed by transparency, of logistics streamlined by tech, of African trade freed from bottlenecks built by ego. The audience leaned in. From the third row, Vanessa stared, mind ricocheting between disbelief and rage.
No.
It can't be her. It can't. Chioma finished to thunderous applause. She stepped down, and executives swarmed. She took cards, shook hands, kept her smile measured. Then a familiar voice cut the noise. Chioma? Mama Risi, older, eyes kinder but tired, stood near the exit in a simple dress. She had taken a housekeeping job at the hotel after the mansion tightened its belt. Chioma's face softened. Mama Risi. They embraced, two worlds meeting between chandeliers and carpet. You look like a dream, Mama Risi whispered. God answered. Chioma's eyes glistened. How is he? Chief? He had a stroke. I'm sorry. And, Vanessa, Mama Risi glanced around. She burns everything she touches. A silence settled, thick with old pain and new power. Then Mama Risi squeezed Chioma's hand. The city needs a different kind of queen. Across the hall, Vanessa approached like a blade. So it's true, she said, voice silky. The maid learned to wear a suit. Chioma turned fully calm. Good evening, Miss Johnson. Vanessa's lips curved. You look healed. Scar tissue is stronger than skin, Chioma replied. Don't mistake a conference for a coronation, Vanessa said. This is Lagos, not London. True, Chioma said gently. And Lagos remembers. Vanessa's smile flickered. She leaned closer. You should be careful whose name you speak in this city. I only speak the truth, Chioma said. It ages well. Vanessa stepped back, mask returning. Enjoy your night, Ms. Okafor. It's the last time we'll be in the same room. Chioma watched her go and exhaled. The past had walked up in white silk and venom. But for the first time, the past looked small. The next morning, Chioma toured the port as part of the summit site visits. Hard hats, high-visibility vests. She stood on a catwalk overlooking cranes that moved like giant herons. A local journalist whispered to a cameraman, "That's the keynote, London money." A convoy pulled in. Vanessa stepped out with two executives in tow, trying to own the ground with her stride. When she reached the catwalk, a gust of sea wind lifted her hair. For a second, her eyes met Chioma's again. One of the executives extended a hand to Chioma. Ms. Okafor, I'm Chaik from Meridian Holdings. We loved your talk. Thank you, Chioma said. Vanessa cut in. Meridian is considering a private placement in our subsidiary. Chaik hesitated. We'll need clean audits first. Chioma's phone buzzed. A message from Aegis. If the Johnson Group opens its books and commits to governance reforms, we may evaluate a minority position. Under your advisement. She put the phone away and looked at the container yard, rows of steel boxes under a harsh sun, an honest geometry the city rarely saw. Then she turned back to Vanessa. There's a path, she said. It begins with transparency. Spare me your sermon, Vanessa said. You don't know this business. I know people, Chioma replied, and I know what rot smells like. The site visit moved to the control room. Screens blinked with vessel arrivals, customs flags, delays. A foreman explained capacity constraints, equipment downtime, kickbacks. Chioma asked precise questions. Vanessa fidgeted. When the tour ended, a young security staffer lingered near the exit. He looked at Chioma, then at Vanessa, then down at his phone. Ma, he murmured to Chioma when Vanessa walked away. I think I know you. Years ago in that house. The boiling water. His voice broke. I was a new guard then. I saw things. Chioma's inhale was sharp and quiet. What did you see? He swallowed. There's something you should have. I didn't have courage then. Maybe now. He slipped a small card into her hand. A cloud link. A timestamp. Come to the staff canteen at 4, he whispered. I'll explain. Across the dock, Vanessa checked her phone. No new wires. No new saviors. She looked back and saw Chioma speaking with the guard. Just a second, a flicker, and a chill moved along her spine. She shook it off. "Dinner at 8, she told her assistant. "Ocean blue. I'm hosting Meridian." "Yes, Ma." Vanessa straightened her shoulders. "Last time we'll be in the same room," she had promised. She intended to make it true, by money or by intimidation. But fate had already sent an invitation Vanessa couldn't read. The staff canteen smelled of stew and diesel. Plastic chairs. Tin trays. A TV mounted high, playing a football replay with the sound off. At a corner table, the young security staffer sat with a backpack clutched too tight. "Thank you for coming," he said as Chioma sat opposite. "My name is Ikenna." "Thank you for calling," Chioma replied. He zipped open the bag and took out an old phone, scuffed to the edges. "I worked at the house 3 years ago. I was new, eager not to lose the job. That day, when you screamed, I was on the side path between the kitchen and the courtyard. I saw Vanessa push your arm. I froze." He swallowed. "I knew the cameras in the kitchen were dummy, but I had been doing overtime on the real CCTV by the side entrance. And," he tapped the old phone, "I had started recording things on my own. The yelling, the threats to staff. I thought maybe one day I'd need it if she tried to blame me for something." His hands shook as he unlocked the phone. He pulled up a folder labeled "Just in Case." "There's video from the corridor. You can't see the splash itself, but you can see her wait for you to turn, step in, and shove. And you can hear the scream. And after, you can hear her tell the other maid, say it was an accident. If you love your job." Ikenna pressed play. The tiny screen showed a grainy angle, a sliver of kitchen doorway, the polished corridor, Vanessa's robe sweeping like a white flag of war. Then the movement, the calculated lean, the deliberate shove. The sound that followed froze the room, a human sound you never forget. Chioma's fingers tightened on the table edge. Her body remembered a heat that lived under her skin even now. "Why didn't you come forward then?" she asked softly. "I was afraid," he said. "She could end me. I sent the clip to a hidden email and deleted it from the CCTV terminal. Then I left that job as soon as I could. But last night, when I saw you on TV, and this morning, when I heard the Portman talking about how she's ruining everything, I realized silence makes cowards kings." He slid the phone to her. "Copy it. Keep it. Do what you need to do. If you go public, I'll testify." Chioma took a steady breath. "I won't let your courage be wasted." She airdropped the file to her own phone, then to a secure drive Aegis used for whistleblower materials. When the transfer finished, she looked up. "Ikenna," she said, "this is not just my story anymore. It's a city story about what we allow. Thank you." He nodded quickly, eyes bright. "I'm sorry I was late." "Late is still in time," she said. She left the canteen into a late afternoon haze, the port cranes cut like ink against a copper sky. The city felt louder, closer. Somewhere across town, Vanessa stepped out of a salon, hair perfect for the dinner she hoped would save her empire. At the curb, Chioma called Nathaniel. "I found something," she said, and her voice carried a steel he had heard only once before, the night she told him she wanted a new life. "What is it?" "Proof," she answered. "And with it the leverage to force reform or to burn the rot down." There was a long, quiet beat on the line. Then, "What do you need from me?" "2 things," she said. "A legal team that doesn't blink. And a media strategy that tells the truth without letting the city turn it into gossip." "Consider them ready," he replied. "Chioma, are you all right?" She looked at her reflection in the car window. Older than 19, scars stronger than skin, eyes clear. "I am," she said. "For the first time, I am." She ended the call and drafted 2 messages. First, to Aegis compliance lead. Uploading sensitive file. Prepare whistleblower intake. Coordinate with Lagos Council. Second, to Vanessa. We need to talk. It's about the port. And the kitchen. She hit send, then closed her eyes as the wind coming off the water lifted her hair. Chapter 15 didn't end in a scream. It ended in a quiet, loaded silence, the kind that comes before a city hears the truth. Vanessa's dinner at Ocean Blue was meant to dazzle. She had reserved the entire rooftop terrace, fairy lights strung above, champagne towers glistening, live band humming Afro jazz. She wore gold silk and a smile stretched too tight. But halfway through her speech about the bright future of Johnson Group, phones began to buzz around the tables. Screens lit up, faces twisted. A hush fell over the terrace as one man whispered, "Have you seen this?" Someone turned their screen toward the group. Grainy footage of a kitchen corridor, a shove, a scream that tore through speakers. Subtitles appeared. Eris pours boiling water on maid. Gasps rippled. Another clip followed. Vanessa's voice, sharp and undeniable. "Say it was an accident if you love your job." All eyes turned to her. Champagne glasses froze midair. Even the band faltered. "Fake," Vanessa barked. "Doctored. Lies." But the footage had already spread like wildfire. Within minutes, hashtags trended. Hashtag Justice for Chioma, hashtag Spoiled Heiress, hashtag Boiling Scars. By the time she stormed out of the restaurant, camera flashes blinded her. "Vanessa, did you attack your maid?" reporters shouted. She shoved past, makeup cracking under sweat. Inside her chest, fear clawed. She called her assistant. "Get it down. Pay anyone. Threaten anyone. Shut it down." "Madam," the assistant whispered, "it's everywhere." Even CNN Africa reposted it. Vanessa froze in the back of her car, headlights flashing against her pale face. For the first time, the city she had mocked was laughing at her. The hospital room smelled of disinfectant and wilted roses. Chief Adewale sat propped against pillows, his face older than his years. The scandal had reached even his ward, nurses whispering, visitors pointing. Vanessa burst in, sunglasses failing to hide swollen eyes. "Daddy, don't believe it. They twisted everything. That maid." "Stop." His voice was hoarse but firm. "No more lies." Tears filled her eyes. "Daddy." He coughed, then motioned for a nurse to leave them alone. When the door shut, his words came slow but sharp. "Vanessa, my empire is collapsing. Contracts gone. Investors fleeing. And now this shame." "Please, I'll fix it," she cried. "Just give me time." "You've had time," he rasped. "And you spent it on parties and pride." She dropped to her knees. "I'm your daughter." His eyes watered. "That girl you hurt, she worked harder for me in 1 month than you did in 20 years. If she is willing, only she can save what's left." Vanessa recoiled. "Her? A maid? Daddy, you'd hand our empire to her?" He closed his eyes, weary. "If that's the price of redemption, yes." For a moment, Vanessa's sobbing filled the room. Then silence. Outside, Chioma stood in the corridor. Nathaniel had brought her to the hospital after a quiet request from Chief Adewale himself. She had heard every word. Her chest ached, not from vengeance, but from the heavy irony of fate. The man who once turned away had now turned toward her. When she entered, Chief Adewale lifted trembling hands. "Chioma, help me. Help us." She studied him, then Vanessa, who glared with red-rimmed eyes. And she said softly, "I will, but on my terms." Within weeks, Chioma walked into the Johnson Group boardroom, not as a maid, but as a power broker. Cameras clicked, journalists scribbled, shareholders leaned forward. She wore a gray suit, simple yet commanding. Nathaniel sat beside her as legal counsel. Chief Adewale, frail but present, watched from the end of the table. Chioma spoke first. "This company will not survive without reforms. From today, transparency is non-negotiable. Every project will undergo independent audits. Kickbacks end. Lavish parties end. Nepotism ends." Murmurs swept the room. Some older men frowned. Others nodded eagerly. "And leadership?" one director asked. Chioma's eyes flicked briefly to Vanessa, who sat fuming in silence. "Leadership will be performance-based. Starting now." A slide appeared on the screen, proof of Vanessa's reckless deals, the exploitative loans, the scandal's financial impact. Gasps filled the room. Chief Adewale raised his trembling hand. Effective immediately, Chioma Okafor will serve as acting chair of the board. The room erupted. Reporters scribbled furiously. Chioma felt Vanessa's stare like daggers, but stood tall. When the press asked outside, Chioma's words went viral. I was once their maid. Today, I'm their leader. Let this remind us, scars don't disqualify a woman. They crown her with strength. Crowds cheered. Online, hashtags flipped. Hashtag Chioma the Queen. Hashtag from maid to chair. Hashtag scars into crowns. History had shifted. The empire was no longer Vanessa's playground. It was Chioma's battlefield. Vanessa's downfall came fast. Banks froze accounts. Luxury stores pulled her credit. Friends who once cheered her ghosted her calls. Paparazzi hounded her outside boutiques, shouting, heiress or villain? At one club, she tried to enter as usual. The bouncer shook his head. Management said no scandal tonight. Humiliation scorched her. She went home, only to find the gates locked. Security guards, once obedient, refused entry. My father's house, she screamed. One guard looked away. Orders from the acting chair. The door shut. For the first time, Vanessa stood on the same side of the gate where she had once thrown Chioma out. She stumbled into the night, mascara streaked, dignity in shreds. At a roadside bench, she sat with trembling hands. The city's laughter was louder than her sobs. On social media, someone posted a photo of her that night, the once untouchable princess, sitting alone under a flickering streetlight. The caption read, Karma comes dressed in scars. The post went viral. The empire's headquarters, months later. The lobby bustled with workers, but this time their eyes shone with pride, not fear. Posters read, integrity, transparency, growth. At the top floor, the boardroom gleamed. Chioma entered in a tailored white suit, her hair cascading like a crown. Applause broke out from directors, investors, even staff who had once ignored her. Chief Adewale, now wheelchair-bound, sat at the head. He raised a trembling hand. Today, we pass the crown not by bloodline, but by merit. Chioma Okafor, you are the new chief executive officer. Tears filled her eyes as she accepted the gavel. Cameras flashed, and her voice rang steady. This is not just my victory. This is for every woman told she is less. For every servant dismissed as worthless. Today, we prove that scars are not shame, they are proof of survival. Thunderous applause shook the room. Outside, Lagos streets filled with chatter. The maid had risen. The empire had a new queen, and the arrogant heiress had been dethroned. Chioma stood at the window of her new office, overlooking the city skyline. The same skyline she had once seen only from the roadside, bandaged and broken. Nathaniel joined her quietly. You did it. She smiled faintly. No. We did it. And this is just the beginning. Behind her, the staff began to chant softly. Chioma, Chioma, Chioma. The sound rose like a hymn, echoing against glass towers, carrying across Lagos. The maid had become the monarch.